Good evening, friends. I am Valerie Cordero, and I am co-executive director of Families for Depression Awareness. Thank you so much for joining us this evening for our watch party. We are going to be watching live two of our most recent family stories. And we're hoping to have a spirited dialogue about the stories and what they mean to those of us who care about mood disorders, families, and family caregivers. Before I invite my co-panelists on the screen tonight, I'd just like to remind you of a couple of things. We have two upcoming trainings that are happening soon. And the first is our Creating Healthy Tech and Media Habits with Your Teen webinar that will be happening in April. It will take place on April 12th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So if that topic is of interest to you, please go to our website and register for free for that webinar. Again, that is Creating Healthy Tech and Media Habits with Your Teen, and it will take place on April 12th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We will also have a webinar on maternal mental health happening during May 2022. So if you aren't already subscribed to our newsletter, please subscribe. You can also do that on our website at familyaware.org, and that way you will be notified of all of the events and trainings that we have coming up. With that having been said, I'd like to invite my co-panelists tonight that are going to be watching the videos with me and providing you with their perspective on the family stories that are shared through those videos. We have two of our family caregiver advisory panel members. We're so excited to have them, and a spouse of one of our family caregiver advisory panel. So Fonda Bryant has been a member of our family caregiver advisory panel pretty much since the beginning. We're so happy to have her. And then we have Jorge Rivera Peña and his lovely wife, Imarin Padua Sotomayor. And they will be joining us for this conversation. Hello, Fonda. Hello, Jorge. Hello, Imarin. How are you all tonight?
Hello. Hi.
Good, good. Thank you all so much for joining us. Would you each like to say a little bit about yourselves before we begin watching the videos? Fonda, would you like to say anything about yourself?
I am Fonda Bryant. I live in right outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, in Concord, North Carolina. I am a mental health and suicide prevention advocate. I'm also a 27-year survivor of suicide, and I really love what I do, helping others that were like me, and I'm glad to be here tonight. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Jorge and Imerin, do you want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, my name is Imarin Padua Sotomayor. I am a suicide survivor. I have bipolar disorder type 1 and chronic anxiety. I've been diagnosed since I was 18, so I've been coping with a lot of side effects with medication, and my child has autism. So I had a tough time adjusting to our life circumstances.
Hi, my name is Jorge Rivera. I'm a clinical psychologist and licensed professional counselor, also a caregiver, and we are together about almost 10 years. And we have a son, 8 years old, with autism too, and we are advocate for autism community too, and we came from Puerto Rico.
Thank you so much, everyone, for being with us tonight. So those of you who are joining us, we are going to watch two of our family story videos. They are roughly 5 to 6 minutes long each, but after each video, we're just going to discuss it. And we encourage you to use the chat in order to give us your reflections on the videos we watched and the stories that are shared through those videos. So feel free to participate and say hi to us in the chat. Hi to Lose It if you need it. Hey, Lose It if you need it. Thank you for joining us and everyone else who's on. So just, you can say hi in the chat. And like I said, you can use that to also write any reflections you have on our videos. So the first video we're going to watch is of Zayana. Zayana is going to be sharing her personal story. So we are going to watch that now. Give us about 5 seconds to transition to the video. And then afterwards, we will have a discussion.
I started having the symptoms of depression early, probably around 8. By the time I was 8, they were fully active symptoms, and it was debilitating. I was already missing school and such. And I didn't tell anybody about what I was feeling and thinking and going through at that time. Some people knew something was a little off. They just thought, oh, she's going through puberty and it's adolescent behavior and normal kid stuff. But in actuality, I think I was suffering a lot more than the average preteen.
When I first noticed the signs of Zayana not sleeping, up all night, and also having her room extremely cold, freezing cold, I thought something wasn't right with that. And the school referred me to a psychiatrist, and I took her to the psychiatrist, and that's when they diagnosed her with adult depression.
Once I got into treatment, they started to question me, do the evaluation, and they were just like, how long have you been feeling this way? And how many times have you attempted? Or what kind of thoughts you have? And that's when I really started to be like, wow, I've been dealing with this for a long time and I didn't know.
The school sent her to the psychiatric hospital, and I abandoned her. I decided I would not pick her up. She was better off somewhere else. I was having my own issues, undiagnosed. Um, and so I just abandoned her and left her at the hospital, told them I was not going to pick her up. And then I moved out of my apartment into a shelter.
My experience with finding the right treatment and my diagnosis was very straining. I think it definitely got worse before it got better. The hard part was the treating it with medication, psychotherapy, group therapy, in and out of programs and institutions to regulate meds, switching from therapists to psych doctors to find the right relationship where I had a voice to say, this medication is not working. I don't want to be on that medication anymore. Can we try something else? Or even trying to advocate to not be on any medication at all. I mean, this thing went on for about uh, 15 years. And once I kind of got into my recovery and I got out of denial of like the self battle of, okay, I have to be on medication when I didn't want to be, when I decided, okay, let me try this one more time and see if we could find something. The doctor put me on like 10 medications at once, and I didn't like the doctor a lot at first. And I thank him now. But at first, I didn't agree. I'm like, why are you putting me on 10 medications? And he's like, well, we're going to take you off whatever doesn't work. And I didn't believe him. So when I started going to the nurses and saying, these are the symptoms I'm having, I don't know which one it is. And they're like, okay, this is from that. We'll take you off of that. And then we got down to about 3 medications, something as needed, something to take at night, and something to take in the day. And I started to see hope. I started to feel like this doctor actually knew what he was doing, and I'm glad I spent 3 months in this program that I didn't want to be in. And I'm still on those same medications. So I've been on those medications now for about 5 years, and I've been able to leave my house. I've been able to get out of bed. I've been able to keep my apartment clean. I've been able to spend time with family, and I'm grateful that I was able to overcome those challenges. Now I'm more so planning for my future, whereas before I was planning for my death. And so now I know how to take those steps to be like, okay, let's set a goal, and how am I going to achieve those goals? But as a kid, it was just the thought of like becoming an adult was so scary, and it held me back from a lot of things for a while.
Watching Zayana's mental health improve was a victory for both of us. I felt extremely proud that she was able to accept her diagnosis and do what she had to do to live with it as a healthy human being. She wrote and published 4 books. She's working on 2 more now. and she's also writing a piece for the American Psychiatric Association in a textbook. So I'm very proud to see where she has come this far, and her mental illness is not linear as well. She goes back into depression. She goes back into suicidal ideology and things like that. But watching her improve and seeing that she's doing what she has to do for her mental health, it makes me want to do what I need to do for my mental health. I'm so very much proud of her.
I'm happy about the place that I am now with my mental health and recovery.
So that was Zayana's story with some comments from her mom, Norma, as well. I'd like to first start out asking you all, what was the most impactful part of Zayana's story for you?
I just think it's something that I can definitely relate to, especially being Black and a woman, is that stigma. It's just there. And her mother reminded me a lot of my mom that, we go to them and try to explain it to them, and they don't always understand, or because they've dealt with it differently. And then they don't seem to have that same empathy and compassion for us. So I can relate to that. And the thing is, though, that she is putting in work every day. And that's something it's not just about taking a pill. It's not just about going to therapy. We got to put in the work every single day. And that includes a big chunk of self-care and having that support. So it was good to see her mother coming around at the end to support her, because we definitely need support when we're dealing with this beast of a mental health condition.
Absolutely. Jorge or Imarin, what resonated with you? What was the most impactful part of the story for you?
And on my part, it was the age in which she started feeling the symptoms. It was exactly as mine. At 14, it manifested exactly like that. I just couldn't sleep. I felt like super sad all the time. Nothing made sense. I felt like I was the most miserable person in the entire world. I thought I was alone in this. My mom precisely was the one that started dealing with me. I had my first suicide attempt at 14. It was with the very same pills that I was given to sleep. I think that it resonated with me how her mother took care of her, and how she went through the same thing that I did, as having a doctor prescribe as many medications as they usually do. Does you feel like a guinea pig? Like you're giving a lot of medications to see what works. But ultimately, patient goes a long way. So first, the age in which she was diagnosed. I was 14 too. The lots of meds first, and that the mother, as my mom did, took care of me diligently.
I saw first the age, also how to break the stigma, how later maybe recognize the symptoms, and it's very difficult age because it's the adolescence that happen, a lot of complication at that type of age. How is the stage of change in her from pre-contemplate to looking for help, for support, for service, and then contemplate, and then make some actions, make some compromise, make some acceptance and commitment, not only for her diagnosis, but also for her recovery. And that's a huge change, a huge process, and the change in the lifestyle and the coping mechanism and coping skills and strategies is amazing. And right now we can see the before and after in her, and we saw the recovery, and we see the hope, and we see the change for the better.
Yes, I've seen these videos multiple times, and every time we come to the part where she says that she started planning for her life as opposed to planning for her death. Such a powerful statement, and
Very
such
powerful.
and such a powerful way of describing how different perspectives she went from the depths of her depression to where she is now. What do you think people might learn from this video that they didn't know already about depression, or about having depression, or supporting somebody with depression?
I think people don't really realize that it's real. They still, because we look perfectly healthy on the outside, you know, that we don't, as somebody told me at the gym one day when I was at the gym, he said, you know why people don't have empathy and compassion for y'all guys? And I said, why? He said, because y'all don't look sick. And I think that's what it still comes down to, that we can sit up and say, hey, it's days we don't feel like brushing our teeth, combing our hair, getting out of the bed, and people are looking at you. When they look at you and they're like, what are you talking about, Fonda? You work out, 3 or 4 times a week. But it's days that I don't feel like even brushing my teeth. And when you think about how easy it is for most people to brush their teeth, it's really something to know that depression is that debilitating. It's the #1 debilitating disease in the world. And it's the #1 disease that can cause you to die by suicide. So I think the thing that people really need to take away from these stories is that mental health is health. It's real, and it's physical health. So I just really appreciate these videos, because hopefully they'll get people to open their eyes and see that mental health is real.
Yeah, to me, is that it can happen to anyone. That's something that people should be aware of. It doesn't matter your ethnicity, your where you come from, your social status. That doesn't matter at all. It can happen to anyone at any age.
I would also say that what's important to look at in this family is that both Zayana and her mom, Norma, struggle with mental health condition. And what I hope people see from this video is that it does run in families. And that sometimes it is very challenging for one person to be a caregiver to the other if they are also dealing with their own mental health challenges. So I know that sometimes in families there can be some denial about if you actually look to the family tree, people used to talk about Auntie so-and-so, 50 years ago. They used to say she did this and that, and we just didn't pay her any attention. We knew that there was something wrong with her. And then they just start to look at the different family members and can sometimes put 2 and 2 together that this is a family, this can be a genetic condition. So I think that's important to also acknowledge.
Or you even find out, like in my case, I didn't realize it, because see, I'm so glad that she found out the signs at 14, but for some of us, it takes years. I didn't know that I was dealing with depression until I was 35 and almost died by suicide. And I didn't know depression ran in our family until my mom told me when I was in the psychiatric hospital. She's like, oh, by the way, depression runs in our family. And see, that's how cultures are. And that's part of the problem with culture. We'll have conversations like in the Black culture, it's diabetes, it's hypertension. We'll talk about that, but we won't talk about mental health, because the first thing that comes up is, oh, you're crazy. We can't have people thinking you're crazy. So that's a big part of it too, the stigma that comes along with mental health, especially in culture.
Absolutely.
But that video promote like cultural humility, promote the prevention, promote the importance of the care, the importance of the follow-up, the importance of the caregiver, the importance of the family also in the recovery process. That video showed a lot of stages in terms of the therapeutic process, but at the same time, the importance of the mental health as a whole, and also in the different life domains that the people need. And that is amazing that promote a lot of positivism too.
I agree. So we're going to take a few seconds and transition to our second video. This video is of Perry telling his story. So everyone hold tight with us as we transition to our second story.
We're actually cousins, and we've always been pretty close. We grew up as stereotypical hillbillies, as most people would call it, and it's been challenging in some circles, because when you go into groups outside of where you've been raised at, you're not always received well.
We come from an area where my dad had to quit school in the 3rd grade and help raise the family, and my mom quit in the 7th grade. And so for them, if they helped us to graduate high school, that was a super, super big accomplishment.
Over time, our relationship has only got closer and closer. We've always been pretty tight. Just like anybody, we've had miscommunications and misunderstandings, but they've never, we've always been able to understand where each other's coming from, talk it out.
And so our relationship, I think, has gotten much, much stronger over this journey. Growing up in a rural area, especially in a poor family, I do believe that there were signs and symptoms along the journey, but I didn't notice them until I got into adulthood. After I returned back from Desert Storm, Desert Shield, I noticed that my motivation, my desire, my ability to be able to function around other people changed dramatically. And so I found myself doing more isolating. And then I saw, my energy and my motivation drifting away more and more. So those were the beginning stages of what I was actually seeing, and finally begin to realize that it was depression that I was having an issue with.
It seemed like I was watching him build a cinder block wall around him continuously, especially if there was any kind of friction with someone. He would just wall that situation off and leave it alone. And then that with the seeming like he acted and talked as though he was defeated all the time, those were the parts that got me as far as intuition.
I saw a few therapists at the VA system on and off. The experience was not great, so it wasn't consistent. There's not a lot of services in Southern West Virginia, especially when I was going through my hardest times. A lot of people didn't understand mental health in our area. And so the people that I went to had good intentions, but I think they were limited in their knowledge, because we're talking back in the early 90s. And so things like PTSD and stuff like that was still fairly new for a lot of people. With a good therapist, I'm a full believer in psychotherapy, or I would not be doing it myself for people. I know that it works, but I also know that we can have bad experiences.
I tried to help him find goals for himself, encourage him to do this, always encourage him. And a lot of it was just always being able to talk, being able to listen to everything, both of us. We both always shared listening to each other, because, with any kind of depression, if you don't have goals in front of you, it only gets worse.
I could hear him trying to encourage me. I could see the examples that he was setting around me. But at the same time, I could not vision or picture myself completing those or achieving those. But of course, having someone there continuously, not giving up on you, not walking away from you or shutting you off, makes a big difference in that. One of the things that Harold did for me that really helped is he helped me see what I need to do, but he didn't go and do it for me. So he helped me to build my character. He helped me to build my self-esteem. He helped me to build my skills and my understandings. And because of that, it helped me to become the person that I am now.
Once someone who has depression gets bit with the bug of goal setting, I believe that seems to be what I've noticed, that most people, if they're capable of understanding and actually setting goals, I think that seems to help them. And when they start seeing the production of it, I think that just itself starts snowballing into something bigger if they're serious about coming out of depression, and if they have that support group. The area we're from, to seek mental health for someone, even for depression, you were either thought to be, very negative stereotype, you were either thought to be actually crazy or looking for a government check. And that was, that's pretty well, even today, that holds on even today, that stereotype.
In my experience, sometimes people would say things to me in what they thought would be reverse psychology. So they would say it in a negative way, thinking that it would produce a positive outcome when it did not. actually it just reinforced the negativities. I'm living proof that you can go through depression, you can go to the point of thinking about suicide, you can go through all kinds of horrible, unimaginable events and things in your life and still come out on the other side victorious.
Nowadays, I'll run into something and I'm calling him for advice. So the student has become the teacher.
So another impactful video. I'm excited to hear you all's thoughts. What was the part that resonated the most with you, either that reminded you of your own experiences or just touched you in a certain way?
To me, it was the part where he felt that because he was from a rural area, it was more challenging for him to come forward with the issues that depression has. From my mother's side, we also were from a rural area, and it was something that was kept hush hush. My grandmother suffered from depression, and I only learned about it when I was 18, 19, where I already had years of experience having this condition. So I felt understood afterwards. Like it could have been helpful to me to know that this was, well, in a certain way, normal in the family. My mom doesn't suffer from it, but my grandma did. I wish I would have known that before so I wouldn't feel so alone. But it was taboo. Like nobody wanted to talk about that, especially in my family.
Well, I saw in the story like a lot of barriers also, well, with the education, first generation student. I am first generation student too. Issues with poverty, uh, issues of rural area, the education, and how they transition little by little to have a good therapist, a good therapeutic alliance, a good support system, a good improve the interpersonal skills, the self-esteem, the importance of the support group, the peer-to-peer. And it's amazing how overcome that type of barriers, and then right now putting in some skills, some dialectical skills, some goals. And that is for me the impression of the video. And also they taught us about the importance of a good therapist, the importance of the coordination of service, and the importance of big commitment to the therapy too, and also spread the whole mental health education to break the stigma and promote some more awareness, not only for ourselves but also for the whole people. And that means a big step right now.
One thing about the stigma problem that we're talking about is that people still see this as people being called crazy in their faces or being a government check.
A lot of microaggression, yes.
I've heard that one a lot because I'm on disability. So some people have questioned me like, "Oh, are you really crazy?" And I go, like, "Excuse me, those are not the right words to refer to my condition."
Yeah, we need to refrain and we need to educate the people and promote more empathy and promote more sensibility and understanding.
Excuse me. Fonda, I'd love to hear your reaction to the video.
Well, he said what I said before, that he found out late in life. And that's what happened with me. Also, because I am an advocate and I do help a lot of people like me, is one thing I had to learn is to set boundaries when you're helping someone. I can't care more about your mental health than you do. And I kind of look at myself, it's a grocery store here in Charlotte. And in the parking lot, it has these big batteries where Teslas come and plug themselves in to get recharged. And that's how I look at myself, as that battery. And if you're not careful when you're helping someone as a peer, they will drain your battery completely, go off about their business, and still won't put in the work. So the thing is, I liked about that is that he was putting in the work, and then the person who was helping him was setting boundaries, because I've had to learn that the hard way, that you have to set boundaries and you have to teach people how to fish. Because if you don't, they'll want you to cook it, fish for them, cook it for them, clean it, cook it, and do everything. And in the meantime, you're losing yourself. So it was good to see a peer setting those boundaries, because we have to. Because if we don't, we're really not helping that person. We're enabling them. So I'm glad to see that there's a good, healthy boundaries between both of them.
Yes, and I think. Oh, go ahead, Jorge.
No, that's a good topic that Fonda said. I'll set boundaries to avoid any burnout, or also the self-care is very important, physical, mental, and also professional. And also if you have some time to debrief, decompress that, and case consultations, or also from peer to peer, or depend on the setting and depend on the service that you promote. But I believe in not only, I believe a lot in the peer support, I believe a lot in the family, I believe a lot in a good support system with the medical care. I believe in the whole component. It's not just one. It's not one, just the psychiatrist and the psychologist. No, the person need more people around them for the same for the same purpose.
Yes, and I would also want to point out that something interesting about this family story is that Perry and Harold are cousins. And sometimes people wonder if they can have an impact on their loved one if they don't live in the same house or even in the same town. But you don't necessarily have to be the spouse or the parent only in order to impact somebody's life who's living with a mood disorder. You can support them. You can find ways to be involved. You can check in on them. You can provide them with positive encouragement, even if you're not right there. And that's one of the things I really love about this story, that these are two cousins that are supporting each other. And I also want to point out that Perry was a service member. He served this country, and we definitely want to acknowledge everyone currently serving and our veterans who do so much to protect us and to preserve our country, and come home and oftentimes have to deal with the invisible wounds of mental health issues as a result of their service. And so it's really important that we support those communities, because they're at high likelihood for PTSD and depression and suicidal ideation. So I think that's important. What do you think is a takeaway from this video that maybe people didn't know that they should know from listening to Perry and Harold?
That PTSD was still not considered a medical diagnosis. I think it's what he said. The PTSD was still like complicated to diagnose. And my husband works in a vet center, and he deals with PTSD all the time.
Yeah, it's a diagnosis, and also it's very complex diagnosis, because in some people also a lot of comorbidities, a lot of depression, anxiety, SUD, suicidal ideation, or active, and we need to deal with all of that with the safety plans, and also with all the support system, with the coping strategies and the numbers. It's very important, the numbers of suicide prevention numbers, and also the numbers from mental health clinics and therapists and other people that can help, also their family too.
Fonda, any takeaways from this video of Perry and Harold?
I just think the biggest thing is, again, you got to put in the work every day. It's no quick fix. It's no, I'm going to take this pill. As he said, I'm going to go to therapy. It's a total thing. And for people who support us, like I tell people all the time, I read up on my own mental health disorder to find out ways to help myself. And I think that's something we need to do, but we also need our loved ones to do the same thing. You don't have to have an education. You can go to the NAMI website, Mental Health America, and they have listed every single mental health disorder there is. And you can read up on mental health issues so you can help us and not enable us, because you do have family members and friends that enable us, and they think they're helping, and they're really not. So that's the thing. People need to learn the difference between helping us and enabling us. So I'm just glad that they had that healthy boundaries with each other where they can help each other and not take each other down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, that's the importance of education. All the start with education, because you cannot promote what do you know without education. Absolutely, FFDA do amazing webinars toolkits for caregivers, and also another mental health association like NAMI, DBSA, and Mental Health of America, and National Institute of Mental Health. Yeah, absolutely. The resources is there.
Yeah. And Mental Health America even has an assessment that you can do yourself. And sometimes I gauge my own mental health. I'll download it and I'll say, okay, I'm not feeling quite myself today. Let me do a assessment on depression. Let me do an assessment on anxiety. And that kind of gauges my mental health, where I know what I need to do to help myself.
Yeah, in most clinical settings, they use a PHQ-9 to follow up or track your mood or track your symptoms, and that's good. That this is every day because it's a lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, I want to thank everybody who's participated tonight, Fonda, Jorge, and Marin, and everyone who has been watching. We really appreciate your participation and want to remind folks to visit familyaware.org to sign up for our trainings, to find more information, to use our online tools and tests, and to look at the publications that we have related to mood disorder. So good night, everyone. Thank you for watching.
Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.